So why does capitalism dominate the modern world, and why will it probably continue to dominate in the future? Well, the reason is actually quite simple when you get down to the bottom of it. So let me explain. If we look at capitalism and we define it as an economical system with free markets, that already hints at why it will do better than the opposite, which is a planned economy. And so if we look at why free markets do a lot better than planned economies, it comes down to one law of nature. And yes, it is a law of nature called supply and demand. And now you might be saying, well, isn't supply and demand simply a thing that we invented to describe market movements and so on? But no, it is actually a law of nature that we observed the same way that we observed the laws of gravity. And you can see it in nature everywhere. When the supply of food is higher than the demand of food, animals won't fight over food. But when the supply of food is lower than the demand for food, then animals will fight over that food, and even if it results in injuries or even death. Because now the value of food has risen so high that it's worth fighting for. And so, supply and demand is a law of nature that simply describes the value of something. The same way that currencies are simply a metric of value. We invented them just like we invented Fahrenheit or Celsius or Kelvin or seconds, minutes, meters, feet. These are all metrics to describe whether distance, time or temperature. Currencies and money is a metric of value, and supply and demand is what defines the value, and then we describe it and use some metric, whether it be dollars, euros, yen. All these currencies are different metrics of value, but they describe the same thing that is determined by the law of nature called supply and demand. So when you think of supply and demand as controlling the value of absolutely everything, not just markets, not just products that you buy at the store, but everything from food to mates to even relationships. For example, most people value their family more than they value their friends, and simply because they have more of a supply of friends and less of a supply of family. Yet the demand is probably fairly similar. And now that we understand this, that supply and demand is a law of nature instead of something that we just made up and arbitrarily follow, it really gives us a reason to believe why free markets are simply better. And the reason is because, once again, if we define capitalism as an economic system using free markets, it will always follow supply and demand. You can imagine, for example, a river. Supply and demand is the river, and free markets follow it perfectly because they follow supply and demand. But a planned economy will bash into the walls and try to fight against the current, and so it will never move as fast as the free markets will, because it doesn't follow the river as well, because you can never plan for all the changes in supply and all the changes in demand and all of these things that free markets simply adjust for themselves. And so every time you have a planned economy, it will never grow as fastly as a free market economy will, and it can be seen even in history. One of the biggest examples of this is, of course, during the Cold War, the USSR against the USA's economy, where the USA's economy grew a lot faster than the USSR's economy. And this is simply due to the USSR having a planned economy, yet the USA used free markets. A modern example that we can also use is South and North Korea. North Korea uses a planned economy, and so their economy grows a lot slower than South Korea with free markets. Now, of course, there's a lot of other factors that come into this, for example, how willing they are to trade with other countries and so on, but the basic still holds true. Free markets will always grow more and do better than planned economies in the same situation. And so, as a quick recap, let's see why free markets will always dominate and be better. It's because they follow supply and demand, which is not a made up concept, it is an observed law of nature. And because it is a law of nature, trying to fight against it will never work as well as following it. The same way that if you try to fight against gravity, you're probably not gonna get as far as the person who just accepts gravity as a law of nature and just acts accordingly and works with the laws of nature instead of trying to work against them. And that is why these free market capitalist countries' economies grow faster than planned economies, and this is why basically all experts in economics want free markets. It comes down to this very simple fact of supply and demand being a law of nature instead of being a made up concept. And so the next time you're thinking, why are all these countries using a free market capitalist economical system? This is why. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.